So thought in the meantime, I could ask you about something that happened, I guess, last weekend. Unfortunately, I didn't see the fights last weekend, but I heard about this oblique kick the topic, the discussion. First of all, can I ask you, why is this, or for the audience that doesn't know, this is a kind of kick. Oh, Rich just joined. Well, maybe you can explain the kick to us, Mike.
So the oblique kick is a side kick, and unfortunately it's a side kick. They call it the oblique kick, but it's normally targeted for the knee. It blows out the knee, it dislocates the joint. And the young man, Khalil Roundtree, is an athlete that I've previously worked with when we were in Las Vegas, when he was on his way up. He's turned into, I think, a superstar now. He's a super talented athlete. That is a completely legal move, though. And I'd love to hear what Rich has to say. It's completely legal. It's allowed. He did absolutely nothing wrong, no disrespect. And you could argue, is that worse than a knee to the face or, an elbow? Who knows? But to see the damage, I think visually speaking, it could be a career ender, but man, any shot in MMA could be a career ender.
Hey, Rich, welcome to the show. We just got started talking before you came on.
Yeah, no worries, man. What's the topic of discussion here? I came in.
I was just asking about the oblique kick topic, the debate that happened this weekend.
I didn't see it. So
maybe Mike can update you.
So what's up, Rich? Good morning, brother.
How you doing, bud? We're just jumping right into this thing. So good morning. Let's get going.
Let's go. So over the weekend, Khalil Roundtree in the UFC, he threw an oblique kick to his opponent and appears like he blew out the kid's knee. Side kick, effectively a side kick to the side of the kid's knee, who was posted in an orthodox stance. Bam, blasted his knee, fight over right then and there. Huge controversy now over Twitter, of course, social media, that it's disrespectful, it's dangerous, it should be banned completely. We had Lieben on last week. I think Lieben had said he'd rather see like stomps to the ground, kind of the old Pride style, as opposed to the oblique kicks. But he did say, hey, it's legal. Now, Lieben is also a referee, kind of working his way up through the ranks now, trying to get to that UFC tier. What do you think?
I've seen these kinds of things before, and I've thought about this kind of stuff actually when I'm competing. There's almost, I guess, in a sense, like a gentleman's agreement of doing these kinds of things or not doing these kinds of things, right, when you're fighting. But what it boils down to is it's a legal kick, right? Particularly if you're fighting an opponent who got some sort of sideways stance that opens them up for that kind of stuff. Because when somebody's standing with that I don't know, maybe it's more of a Taekwondo style stance, they're taking a lot of weapons away from you, like a lot of things that you would be able to do because they're pulling the backside of that body away. So you're going to have to be able to do what you can to whatever they have that's exposed. Now with something like that, I personally, I don't think that I could do that, knowing that I could possibly say injure somebody to the point where it would end a career. However, I don't see how it's any different than if I were on the ground and going, like reaping a leg and going for, say, a reverse heel hook or something like that. Because once those things are locked in, I mean, so, like that, you can tear stuff on a move like that. So I don't see how it's any different. There's just going to be techniques where things are exposed and it can possibly cause injury. And so if this is something that needs to be changed, this is the first time that this has come up, really. But when you think about it, I mean, these type of kicks, like this is kind of, in essence, what Hoist was doing back in UFC 1, right? I mean, with this kind of front stomp setup that he did for the shot at that point in time. And so this is something that you could have seen coming from a mile away, essentially. And, if the public's calling for it, or if the fighters are calling for it, then you have to go back and take a look at the rules. However, I don't think that you can kind of, pass judgment on this guy for just doing what was legal, in essence.
I agree.
Rich, when you say a Taekwondo stance, do you mean like where someone is sort of turned, if they have their right side backwards, they would be turned this way, so their left leg is sort of the knees pointing to the right?
No, you just like when you're standing completely sideways to your opponent. Like typically, if you and I are fighting, right? Like especially if you have a symmetrical matchup, so you're a conventional versus conventional, or a southpaw versus a southpaw, then you're kind of standing somewhat squared to each other, off angled a little bit. But then there are certain athletes, certain fighters, like you see it in boxing all the time, where guys will turn completely sideways, use that front shoulder to kind of cover up, and taking the backside away. Stylistically, these things can become somewhat beneficial in mixed martial arts, but at other times they can become detrimental because it can also limit movement, right? Like somebody who's standing sideways, I don't have to worry about, for example, someone who has a sideways stance, like a Taekwondo stance, taking a shot on me. At the same time, for example, if they're a conventional fighter and they turn completely sideways, it will be very difficult for me to, because I'm southpaw, to like land a solid liver kick. So that whole backside of the body now has been completely taken away. So I'll have to get creative with what I can do to the front side of the body. I mean, perhaps, the lead leg is there more for, single leg takedowns. I'm going to start attacking the lead leg with leg kicks. And in this case, Khalil was the one that threw the kick, right, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, so then Khalil's obviously attacking the leg that way in a very effective but destructive manner.
So is that position, you mentioned that it's sometimes boxers use it to like hold the side. I guess it's a more less vulnerable side to be hit on. Is it also optimized for the roundhouse kick from the right?
It depends on how you stand, obviously, and stylistically how you move. But if you're, and how much you've actually rotated your body. If in essence I'm standing in front of you and you rotate completely so that we're basically perpendicular to each other, your whole backside is taken away. It's going to be quite difficult for you to turn with that round kick into me with that back leg. You just, because you'll have to open up the hip somehow.
Interesting. Well, Rich, I got to thank you for joining us. I'm sorry to get directly into the conversation. I was just really interested. I don't know that much about MMA, so I'm always asking questions and trying to learn. And I was trying to learn about the oblique kicks.